I love Landon. Here's a big one. Is there any kind of like framework around it? What do you want to? Who do you want to help? Like, there's um, okay. Well, sharing the food bank is the obvious one, right? Just because of what they do. I think there's tons of other charities out there, but are they? If you're looking to get families in need, I'm thinking about in particular, there's Insight, which deals with disability, people with disabilities and challenge that way. They may have a need. There's um, there's a couple others that are in the same boat. I'm happy to make some phone calls.
Hey.
If you want.
Oh, I can't hear you. Hey, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. Have you been doing lots of Zoom meetings lately?
Oh yeah, a lot. Yeah, that's the only thing that I'm doing is I've been home at home since last Monday and tons of Zoom meetings.
Really?
Yeah, like all our sessions are online now.
Yeah. Well,
How about you?
Yeah, it's been good. I'm still coming to the. Oh, hang on a second.
So yeah, lots of great things.
Yeah.
Learning day.
It's a learning day. And Steph, I do have all that stuff to send to you, my friend.
Awesome. I look forward to it.
Mary and I created another Facebook page just with all the different resources. So,
awesome.
And we have all the events attached to it.
Perfect.
Yeah. Thanks, Yazaman. I look forward to listening to you. So I'm going to mute.
Okay. I'm just going to put us to Facebook Live and then give it a minute or two to sync up. And then I will do an intro. All right, almost there. Okay. Believe we are streaming live on Facebook. So I'd just like to thank Yasmin for taking the time to do this presentation for us today. We know that everyone is feeling all sorts of emotions as we go through this COVID pandemic, and mental wellness is definitely an important part to keep in mind. And now that the sunshine is gone and we're expecting rain for the next week or so, learning how to and focusing on how to take care of yourself is super important. So Yasmin, I'll just turn it right on over to you.
All right, thank you. Thank you for having me. Hope everyone is having a good morning, as good as it gets in this time. This presentation, we're talking about how to basically keep sane in these difficult times. And my name is Yasmin Medanikio, and I'm the clinical director and one of the counselors at Expressions Counseling. So let's begin. So we're going to talk about three main things: how to make room for your feelings, how to make room for your worries, and how to create self-care routines that are best suited for these times. So this is a very tricky topic. A lot of people get confused between grief and depression. So depression is when someone is feeling negative, low, lonely, and not good enough for a long time, whereas grief is a wave of feelings, different kinds of feelings that you experience in regards to a loss. Grief is not depression, it's not you being negative, it's just a feeling that comes when things are not going well. So now grief can look very different for different people, and grief has a couple of stages: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. And sometimes people ask, like, how does grief relate to COVID? A lot of people think grief is for when someone dies, but no, we experience grief for all sorts of things. So in terms of grief, in terms of in regards to COVID, the denial stage would be like, oh, it's all fake news. We're all okay. We're just going to keep partying. We saw some of those people in the news. So that's the denial stage of grief. The anger stage is when you're angry. You might feel angry at people who are outside. You might feel angry at the government. You just might overall just have a lot of anger towards the virus. Or sometimes, unfortunately, the anger stage of grief can come in forms of racism, especially with this virus, blaming groups of people for this virus. But that's like a stage in grief. And then there's bargaining. Bargaining is like, if we stay home in 2 weeks, then everything will be fine. This will just pass. That's when we're like trying to like make deals with like whoever is out there or with ourselves, and we're trying to make things look better than it is. Depression is a stage, it's a sadness stage within the grief realm, but it's not like being clinically depressed. Depression stage is, you basically feel sad and you cry, and it's totally okay to feel sad and cry when bad things happen. It's actually healthy. And then once we go enough times between denial, anger, bargaining, depression, then back up and back down and zigzag all the way through, we usually get to acceptance, where we take things as they are and we try to make the best out of it. So a lot of people, a lot of my clients have had challenges distinguishing grief with actually being sick. So I've had clients who've had panic attacks because they're experiencing symptoms of grief and they think it's the coronavirus. It's not. So grief can lead to headaches. One of the counselors that I follow was describing it like your head is full of cotton balls. You can feel really tired. You might be doing less work than before, but feeling more tired than ever. You might get chest pains, and you might lose your appetite. Or stomach aches is a very, very popular thing that happens when people are grieving too. So if you're experiencing grief, it's normal. You don't have to be worried about it. We're just gonna have to make room for our grief so that it doesn't get stuck and it remains healthy. So sometimes people say, oh, I shouldn't think about it. Or if I feel my feelings and I feel about what's going on, then I'm just being negative. That's not true. Actually blocking yourself from feeling your feelings or experiencing your thoughts, that can cause worse symptoms of depression. So staying with your grief is actually healthy. You shouldn't be avoiding it in any way or form. And then sometimes people get into fights between their brains and their hearts. So for example, like their heart is feeling sad because they can't go out and they miss their mom. But then their brain comes and it's like, well, there are people in other places in the world who don't have homes, so you should not be sad. So that's a really important note to make, that your brain is completely different than your heart. And even though you might have a lot of logical arguments for why something should be or shouldn't be, your feelings are completely a separate realm. And when I've seen people like dismiss their feelings, they say, well, it is what it is. There are worst cases possible. And those arguments are valid, but it's just that your feelings and your logical arguments are two different realms, and they both need you to attend to them. Otherwise, it can feel even worse. So one thing to do in order for you to stay present and to stay true to your feelings is to have reminders for yourself to check in to see how you're feeling. We have a range of emotions. One time I actually gave this homework to one of my clients and I didn't explain it well. So at 9 a.m., 1 p.m., 5 p.m., and 9 p.m., she was written good, bad, good, bad as feelings. And good and bad are actually not feelings. We have a range of feelings. So you could Google an emotional wheel, like the one that's here, and say at 9 a.m., you can look through it and just pick an emotion that you're feeling in your body from there. Or if sometimes people feel their feelings in their head when they're very intellectual. So just the act of like naming your feelings, it really helps you to be able to stay mindful and to also be able to manage it better. There's also an app that called it's called Mood Meter that also keeps triggering you to like checking your feelings and to stay mindful. So with feelings and grief, all you do is you name it, you feel it, and you let it pass. What you shouldn't do is to push it away and like distract yourself, say with TV, with drinking, with drugs, or anything that you do to cope and not feel your feelings. You can draw your feelings. My background is in art therapy, so you can always draw like a little body outline and see how like your feelings are transferring to your body. So for example, a lot of times people feel anger in their jaws, in their hands. They feel anxiety in their tummy, in their heart. So just like to take a moment and to really scan your body and see what kind of like pressures and sensations there is there in order for you to come back to your body and to draw them. That's a really good way of checking in. Another of my favorite that I asked Stephanie to help me with this one is to come up with a safe place and try a butterfly hug. This method comes from a New York counseling method called EMDR that helps you really ground yourself, especially if you may experience panic attacks or high anxiety states. This can really help. So Stephanie, for this directive, I get my clients to come up with a safe place. So this is a place in the whole wide world that would feel the safest to you, like hikes, nature, lakes, and different areas like that. What would your safe place be? Mine is Parksville. That's like an image of the Parksville Raft River Park. So that's my safe place. But people can make up their own, or they can also make imaginary safe places.
My safe place would be in a really big like grassy meadow field, flowers and sunny day and nothing else around.
Okay, so the first step is to get more details on your safe place. So when you're standing in your safe place, what do you see?
Just grass and shrubs for as long as I can see, and blue sky.
Blue sky. Is it sunny?
Yes, it's very sunny. No clouds. Bright.
Is it hot or is it warm?
It's comfortable. It's not super hot, but it's a nice spring day.
Nice. What do you smell?
Fresh grass, freshly cut grass.
And what do you hear?
Birds chirping.
Your birds. And what do you sense on your skin as you're standing in this grassy area?
A slight breeze.
A slight breeze. Awesome. Thank you. So I'm just gonna show you guys what it is to use the butterfly hug to go in your safe place. So Stephanie, I'm just gonna read this again. And after I read it, I'm just gonna ask you to close your eyes and cross your hands and do this motion for like a minute or 30 seconds. So basically, Stephanie, imagine being in your safe place. There's endless grass and shrubs. There's blue sky. It's very sunny, warm and comfortable. You can smell the grass and you can hear the birds. Now close your eyes and do a butterfly tap. All right. How was it?
I feel very calm.
What do you see in your safe place?
I just see me peaceful in my safe place.
Yeah, it's really fun. And then sometimes, like, if you keep going, you might see even like little animals creeping in or new naturey things, like kind of like it's like a 3D motion safe place that happens. So this is one method that you can do. You also can use this butterfly hug for any sensations that you have. Stephanie, thank you for being my helper.
No problem.
Yourself, like as you're sitting there, if you scan your body, is there tension anywhere in your body that you might experience right now?
My stomach, maybe.
Okay, so when the tension in your stomach, if it had a shape, what shape would it be?
Round.
And what color would it be?
Like a dark gray.
Perfect. Can you try doing the butterfly hug and just look at this dark gray circle in your tummy and just tap for 30 seconds? Just like really focusing on that sensation and just like looking at it, being curious about it. Usually when we focus on the sensation and like we do the tapping, you kind of find that the sensation starts like going in waves, spreading, moving, melting, or changing shapes. All right. So what happened to the gray ball?
Yeah. I could feel the gray ball, and I got like right there, and then it just kind of melted away.
Yeah, that's usually how it goes. Like it, once we focus on a sensation, it actually melts away. So this butterfly hug with a safe place or any sensations you might have is a really good tool, especially if you're in a high anxiety state and you can see yourself spiraling. It's a really good tool to just calm you down. Thank you for
That was really cool.
it's really weird and cool how like a simple tapping can help you with that. This tapping helps your working memory kind of to deactivate so that you can focus and process the things that you're focusing on. If you're interested about this tapping method, you can read more about EMDR. So another thing is not only adults, children can also feel grief. They can say that they feel sad, scared, or experience various feelings. What not to do with children is to tell them like, be brave, or you have nothing to worry about. Well, obviously we all have things to worry about. And if we say that, we're straight up lying to children. And children are really, really, really smart. They can definitely tell. So instead of dismissing or just trying to promote toxic positivity when we tell people to just be happy and positive when things are not necessarily happy or positive, you just have to validate your children's feelings. For example, if your child is like, I'm really scared, what if you get the coronavirus? You just validate, I hear that you're having some big, 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 scary anxiety feelings about mommy getting sick. That's okay. I understand why you would feel that way. And then ask your child what you could do with them to make them feel better. But in no circumstance devalue their feelings. As my adult clients who in their childhoods, their feelings were dismissed. We have to do a lot of work to undo the damage that was done when their feelings were dismissed. So if your children are having feelings, just validate them. Back in the day, the worst thing people did is they would say things like, don't cry or I give you something to cry about, which is the most damaging thing possible. So when children are having big feelings, they're scared or they're crying, just validate their feelings, just come down to their level and help them to feel better by doing various things. So here's some things to make children feel better. Spending one-on-one art time or playtime does magics. So you only follow your child's lead in doing the play and you kind of become like their assistant. Sensory toys like stress balls, they're really good tools for children and also adults. You could also use essential oils with the kids. Lavender is a popular one. And anything that makes their hands occupied, like I've seen some really great posts with people putting like rice in buckets and letting their kids to play with it. Anything with texture would help their nervous system calm down. There is another kind of grief. It's called anticipatory grief. It's when we come up with all these creative negative scenarios about what will happen if this virus doesn't stop. So this anticipatory grief can lead to like excessive worrying, and that's also another thing that a lot of people are struggling with. So the best thing to do for worrying and your anxiety is to allocate a worry time. So that means, so like say 8 p.m. to 8:30 every night, you're just like writing everything that you're feeling. You could take a paper, write it all out, and you can even rip it after that 30 minutes and like shred it. The point is for you to be able to delay your worrying, especially your worrying thoughts. So if it's at 1 p.m. and suddenly you're starting to worry, you tell your worry or your worried mind to come back, say at 8 p.m. And sometimes people have to do this worry journal for a couple of times during the day. The point is we don't want your worries to run your day. We want you to run your days and make space for your worries. Another fun thing is to have a worry box. I've done this myself. I've done it with adult clients and children clients. So basically you get a box, you design it how you like. This is a really fun activity with kids too. And every night, at night, you can put your worries in the box and lock them up. At your worry time, which might be 8 to 8:30 or whenever it is, you can even open up your old worries and read them and then put them back in the box. You can, for children, they like to make their boxes like monsters, so the monsters chewing their words. It's really fun, and it actually works for people of all ages. Just the fact of putting worries down and like locking it up, it really helps your body to calm down. And then there's intrusive thoughts. Intrusive thoughts are different than normal thoughts or normal worries. With intrusive thoughts, they are very sticky. So for example, they will sound like, you're gonna get sick, you're gonna get sick, you're gonna get sick. And then your brain is like, no, I'm not. And it's like, you're gonna get sick, you're gonna get sick, you're gonna die. Like it's like very, very like fast paced, and it's like kind of like it's like a spammer that keeps telling you things. So if you're having intrusive thoughts, it's really important to label them as intrusive thoughts, and kind of like what you can do is you can make yourself like a thought bubble, and then imagine this intrusive thought in this thought bubble, and just like look at the thought, but don't engage with it. So don't start being like, no, I'm not gonna get sick, because that way the intrusive thought gets bigger and bigger. Instead, like, make the thought bubble, look at it, and then it says you're gonna get sick. It goes up and down and around, and then after a couple of minutes it goes away. Stephanie, I'm gonna try something with you. So think about a white panda bear.
Okay.
Now don't think about the white panda bear.
Okay.
Did it work, or was it really hard?
It's really hard.
So exactly. So intrusive thoughts are like the panda bear. They come and it's really hard to not think about them. So all you have to do is to label them and watch them like they're a cloud that's floating in space. And you just have to come back to the present moment. One thing to do, especially when people, again, are in high anxiety things, to ask them to name things that are around them. Like, excuse me, a big one is like the grounding technique. It's called 5 things. So you ask people like to name 5 things they see, 4 things they hear, 3 things they touch, 2 things they smell, and 1 thing that they taste. For example, Stephanie, what are like 4 things you hear as you're sitting there?
I hear you. I hear clacking of a keyboard. I can hear the murr. Some banging. Is that 5?
4 things. So tell me 2 things that you smell. What do you smell?
The lotion I just put on my hands. My coffee.
Exactly. So as you do this directive, you just like really calm down and like things get quiet. And then the last thing is 1 thing. What's the last thing you taste? At which most people are like, my mouth, which is just, we do have a taste. So this is also another technique to use when if you or your child is having anxiety, to just label things around the room, and brings you back to the present moment. So now here's some self-care. You probably have seen a lot of articles about what to do and what self-care routines to have during this COVID, but I kind of wrote them down again. it's creating routines for adults and children, puts your mind at ease that there is a level of predictability. So having strict routines, not strict, but like consistent routines, can really help you and your child, especially because when we're at home, we can really procrastinate or get distracted. So it's really good to stay focused. You focus on what you can control. If we were to watch news from morning to night, we will set ourselves for failure and for a lot of negative feelings. So in order for you to be able to remain healthy, it's really important to like make to-do lists and self-care lists, and say, if you really want to stay informed and know the news, like make time for yourself, say like 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. That's when I check the news. Between those times, don't give yourself permission to keep going on the news channels, because too much consumption of news doesn't help anyone. It's not gonna make this virus go away, and it's only gonna create more anxiety for you, which will make you less productive, less present. So just try your best to do a lot to practice self-control with watching the news, and just staying focused on things that you can control. You can, obviously, we have all tried it. My assistant Melissa had a Cards Against Humanity virtual game last Friday, which was really cool. I think that's a great idea, and I think as we are staying at homes and our extroverted parts of ourselves are starting to get uncomfortable a bit, it's really important to join people for online parties, online board games, online double dates, video games if you're into video games, like at video games at the right amount of time for the right people. They're good self-care, and they can be done socially as well. Create art. One of my favorite things to do is to make a dream board, which is basically I take magazines and like rip parts of it that I want to see in my life and like glue them on a big board. Currently in my office upstairs, I have 3 dream boards. There's one career, one personal one, and one collective for me and my partner. So dream boards are a fun thing to do. Scrapbooking, painting, having your paint nights, like kind of like you and your friends try to paint the same painting over Facebook, or not Facebook, Zoom, or live like FaceTime, and you kind of have a virtual paint night. Try a new recipe, cook. I tried Persian making, my background's Persian, so I tried making Persian food, various Persian foods for the first time in my life. I'm quite proud of it. It's definitely fun. And spring cleaning, obviously this is that time of the year where we are cleaning the garage, getting rid of old clothes or old kitchen items. A really cool book that you might want to read, it's called The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up. When I read that book, I got rid of so many things in my house. So that might be a good audiobook or a book to read while you're cleaning. Planting, that's my favorite self-care, it's spring. So even if you don't have a big garden, you can always like get pots and in your patio to plant. It really brings that mindfulness piece and like gives you a sense of control, because you're creating lives, plant lives. Doing puzzles, scheduling walks and runs. Obviously it's best for us to stay home, but we definitely need to get exercise and get moving, otherwise our bodies don't start feeling uncomfortable. And this one is a super important one. A lot of people are struggling with sleep. A lot of people are going to bed and their mind and body is like ruminating. And at that point, I usually ask people, what do you do when you're not falling asleep? And they tell me they stay in bed. That's really not good. The best thing for you to do is to practice the 20-30 rule. So basically, if you're in bed and you're trying to sleep and you put your devices away, if you don't fall asleep in 20 minutes, you're supposed to get out of your bed, physically out of your bed, and do something calming or boring, like cleaning or like doing dishes or like doing puzzles or writing or art. No video games or TV or Instagram or Snapchat, because that really stimulates your brain. So your body needs to know that your bed is for sleeping, and if you're in bed not sleeping, you get out of bed and you try your best to stay out for a full 30 minutes before you try to sleep again. Even if this happens at night, like say at 3 a.m. you wake up and it's 3:20 and you're still not able to sleep, you really need to get out of your bed and do that 30 minutes of calming things before you go back. A lot of people think that if they get out of the bed, then the chances of falling asleep is worse, but it's not necessarily like that as long as you don't do anything too exciting. But if you stay in bed and you're not falling asleep and your worries are keeping you up, it just, your body and your brain associates your bed with not sleeping, which can be very unhelpful. If you are struggling still and you're wondering what to do, I want to learn something, I want to read something to make me feel better, these are two really good books that I highly recommend. It's not always depression. That one's really about like the power of staying with your feelings rather than like avoiding them and numbing them, and it talks about core feelings versus secondary feelings. It's a really, really wonderful book. Another one is Man's Search for Meaning. This one's like an existential book. It's a little bit grim because it's about a gentleman's like journey through concentration camps, but there's an empowering message that comes in the second half of the book. It talks about how there is no set meaning for life for people on planet unless we put them ourselves, and our time comes to an end and we will all die and we're kind of alone. So it all sounds very grim, but the takeaway from it is now all you can do is to come up with a meaning and a purpose. And it really goes the same with this COVID dynamic. Like there is not much we can do with the unfairness and all the bad stuff that happens in the world other than us coming up with a sense of purpose for ourselves and our children. If you're still struggling, you can always see a virtual therapist. You can use a free online chat service that helps you support with your mental health challenges. You can always call crisis line. If things get really unsafe, you can always call 911 and there will be people there to help you. Yeah, so that's my presentation, and I'll be happy to take any questions or comments.
Great, thank you so much, Yasmin. Yeah, we will open it up to Q&A if anyone wants to throw a question into the chat box, or if you're comfortable, you can unmute yourself and ask a question to Yasmin.
Hi, Yasmin and Stephanie and Sandy.
Hey.
Thank you for the great webinar, my friend. What I really always appreciate your insights, because what I put on the chat line, trying to type it out, it was really interesting reflection for me personally, is I liked the work around, I sought out a safe place for myself. I didn't realize I was doing it, which I found quite interesting, where I had looked at my pictures for my homepage and selected one where my mom is gone now, but it was my safe place in Edmonton, sitting overlooking the river's edge in the sun. And I've noticed the last little while, just because I tried to do meditation and to calm, but when I was feeling, because it is uncertain times, I would click on that and just breathe.
Yes.
And so it was really interesting. I'm like, oh, gee, I did that. I didn't even know.
Yes, exactly. And next time you do it, even try the tapping. And what happens is things start moving in that picture, and you get really vivid images that comes up. It's really cool how we can really come back and go to pictures or images from our memory to calm our nervous system.
Yeah. And I also really appreciated the diagram on where we feel our emotions and the uncertainty, and because we're all in it together to move forward. And yeah, I just thought that was a great tool. So thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, on that note, the thing is, we all have emotions in our body, but sometimes some of us who are more intellectual than others, they sense their feelings in their brain. So if any of you are like that, I highly recommend to try your best to also locate a location in your body where certain feelings come. Like sometimes people actually make feeling journals and know where they feel feelings. That way, for example, sadness is in the tip of my throat. Sometimes my body tells me I'm sad before my brain knows I'm sad. I know it from a little sensation. It's like a little weight that comes here. So knowing where it's located, it definitely can be helpful. It's an empowering tool.
That's awesome. Is there any other questions? No. Okay, well, this PowerPoint presentation is going to be saved on our Facebook page, so you can go back and look through it again and find those techniques to help you weather the storm as we go through the next few days. Yasmin, thanks again so much for taking the time to be here and to do this. We really, really appreciate it, and everyone could use some mental health right now.
Yeah.
Mary's saying thank you.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me. And if anyone has any questions, or if you have anyone who's struggling, or you're wondering what to do, like, feel free to always reach out to me. I'll be happy to help you in any way I can.
Awesome. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye,
Thanks,
everyone.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for joining us.